I want to start with a confession. Last week, I walked into a room and completely forgot why I was there. I stood there looking around like I'd been transported by aliens and felt that familiar wave of panic. Oh no, is this it? Is my brain giving up on me? But then something interesting happened. Later that same day, I solved a complex work problem that had been stumping my entire team for weeks. I didn't just solve it. I saw connections others missed, asked better questions, and approached it with a clarity and calm my younger self never had. That's when it hit me. Maybe we've been thinking about the aging brain all wrong. We're so focused on what we might be losing, speed, memory, multitasking, that we miss the incredible superpowers we're gaining: depth, wisdom, pattern recognition, emotional intelligence. So in this video, I want to flip the script. I want to share the fascinating science behind how our minds actually evolve after 40. Why these changes aren't signs of decline, but signs of transformation. I'll share personal stories, recent neuroscience, and most importantly, practical ways you can embrace this shift. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started on unlocking some serious wisdom. Section 1. The myth we've been sold. Let's begin with the myth, the narrative, the whispers that grow louder as we age. It's all downhill from here. Your best thinking years are behind you. Better start doing puzzles to keep your brain sharp. This narrative isn't just outdated, it's wrong and harmful. It's built on research that focused on just one narrow slice of cognition: memory and processing speed. But real intelligence, especially the kind that leads to wisdom, empathy, and creativity, is so much more than how fast you can recall a name. I remember turning 40 and becoming hyper-aware of every time I forgot something small. A name, a password, why I opened the fridge. And like many of us, I started labeling it. I guess this is what getting old feels like. But what I didn't realize then is that forgetting small things doesn't mean your brain is failing. It often means your brain is filtering. You're processing so much more, sifting out the noise so you can focus on what really matters. That's not dysfunction, that's evolution. And science backs this up. Recent research from Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and UC Berkeley has shown that while certain types of processing might slow slightly, other capabilities, like pattern recognition, emotional regulation, and decision-making, actually improve in our 40s and beyond. This is called crystallized intelligence, our accumulated knowledge, intuition, and life experience, and it continues to grow throughout our lives. It's like comparing a race car to a luxury cruiser. The race car is faster, but the cruiser is smoother, more reliable, and far better equipped for the long journey. So no, your brain isn't declining after 40. It's evolving. Let's stop mourning what we think we've lost and start celebrating what we've gained. Section 2. The science of the 40-plus brain. Let's talk about the science because this is where things get really exciting. Your brain after 40 isn't just hanging on. It's actually rewiring in ways that are powerful, adaptive, and deeply meaningful. One of the most fascinating findings is something called bilateral processing. In younger brains, most cognitive tasks are handled by one side, left for logic, right for creativity. But as we age, the brain starts to recruit both hemispheres for many tasks. This is called the Herald model, hemispheric asymmetry reduction in older adults. In plain English, you're thinking with more of your brain. This shift means you start integrating logic and intuition more seamlessly. You're not just analyzing problems. You're understanding them from multiple angles. You're making connections your younger brain couldn't even see. I noticed this when I returned to painting in my 40s. In my 20s, I was all about technique. I wanted my work to be perfect, polished, impressive. Now, I paint from a deeper place. I combine what I know with what I feel. My strokes are guided by both memory and meaning. My art tells stories now. It holds layers that only come from having lived through joy, loss, regret, and renewal. Another powerful shift happens in the anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain that regulates emotion and monitors conflict. As we age, this region becomes more active and efficient. It helps us pause before reacting, consider others' perspectives, and stay centered even in stress. This is why so many of us find that drama doesn't affect us like it used to. We don't take the bait. We hold space instead of escalating. We understand what's really worth our energy. Then there's the concept of cognitive reserve, your brain's backup system. Over time, your mind builds alternative pathways to problem solve. When the obvious solution doesn't work, you take the scenic route and still get there. That's not inefficiency. That's neural flexibility built from years of adaptation. And finally, we develop a beautiful thing called positivity bias. Midlife brains are more likely to focus on positive input and tune out the negative. Not because we're naive, but because we've lived enough to know what's worth holding on to. Our brains start choosing peace over perfection, connection over control. So no, you're not becoming less intelligent after 40. You're becoming more whole. You're evolving into a version of yourself that is capable of depth, compassion, and clarity, and that is something to celebrate. Section 3. My personal brain evolution story. When I was younger, especially in my 20s and 30s, I believed that mental agility was everything. I was proud of how fast I could think on my feet. I could memorize rapidly, crank through tasks, speak quickly, and make decisions with almost no hesitation. It made me feel sharp, capable, in control. But what I didn't realize then was how often I was operating from stress and reactivity, not from depth or understanding. My mind was fast, but it wasn't wise, and it certainly wasn't peaceful. In my early 40s, I started to notice a shift. At first, it terrified me. Words didn't come as fast. I found myself writing more things down. I couldn't multitask like before, and I'd occasionally forget what I walked into a room for. The fear crept in. Was this the beginning of the end? But gradually, something else began to emerge. I started seeing beneath situations. I could listen to someone speak and hear what they weren't saying. I could anticipate roadblocks in projects that hadn't happened yet. I began to sense patterns, subtle ones, in relationships, dynamics, energy. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was responding, with clarity, with calm. One moment really drove it home. I was brought into a company to consult on communication issues. On paper, everything looked fine. Solid org chart, competent leadership, clear goals. But within minutes of sitting in the first meeting, I sensed something off. The way two managers avoided eye contact, the subtle hesitation in team feedback. The tension was invisible in the reports but obvious in the room. I spoke with the CEO privately and said, "I think your marketing and operations leads aren't aligned. There's unresolved conflict there." He blinked at me, shocked. "How could you know that? They haven't told anyone yet." My 30-year-old self wouldn't have noticed, but my 40-plus brain had lived enough, seen enough, and processed enough to detect what was really going on. That's not decline. That's evolution. Section 4. The 5 cognitive superpowers of 40+. Now let's talk about what I call the 5 cognitive superpowers of the 40-plus brain. These are the mental abilities that actually improve with age, gifts that make you wiser, more perceptive, and more effective in your life and work. Let's go through them one by one. Superpower. Number 1, pattern recognition mastery. Your brain has seen enough life, enough cycles, enough people, so that now it can instantly recognize what's really going on beneath the surface. Doctors with decades of experience can spot a misdiagnosis at a glance. Teachers can identify a struggling student not from test scores, but from a single conversation. Therapists can sense what's being left unsaid long before words are spoken. You have this power too. I use it in my work all the time. I can look at an organization's chart and predict where communication will break down. I can listen to someone describe their team and know there's a personality clash brewing. It's not magic. It's years of lived data stored in the most powerful computer we know, the human mind. Pattern recognition is a superpower of experience. Superpower number 2, wisdom-based decision-making. When you're young, decisions often come from emotion, urgency, and limited context. In your 40s and beyond, you've seen the aftermath of impulsive choices. You've learned that sometimes the loudest voice isn't the right one, that waiting a day or a week often leads to far better outcomes than rushing. You don't need to win every argument now. You want to win the long game. This is why so many successful entrepreneurs, coaches, and executives hit their stride in midlife. They no longer chase every opportunity. They make strategic, values-aligned choices because they've learned what truly matters. Superpower number 3, emotional intelligence mastery. By the time you've hit 40, you've likely experienced love and loss, joy and heartbreak, disappointment and redemption. You've cried hard, laughed harder, and walked through fire, sometimes more than once. That emotional range gives you empathy. You don't just listen, you understand. You don't just sympathize, you connect. You don't react, you respond with perspective. You can sit with someone in pain without needing to fix it. You can celebrate with someone without making it about you. That's emotional intelligence, and it deepens with age. Superpower number 4, integrated thinking. This one's big. Your brain can now hold complexity. You're no longer limited to either or thinking. You understand that life is rarely black and white, and you're okay with that. You can say, I love my job, but I'm still burnt out. I'm grateful for my family, and I still need space. I respect that opinion, even if I don't agree. This is integrated thinking. It allows you to navigate nuance. It helps you mediate, lead, parent, and partner in more grounded ways. You see the gray, not as confusion, but as a sign of maturity. Superpower number 5, selective attention excellence. This one might surprise you. We're so quick to call it forgetfulness, but in reality, it's focus. Your brain is simply no longer interested in trivia. It's learned to prioritize meaning. So maybe you forget where your keys are, but you remember your friend's tone when they said they were fine. Maybe you can't recall the name of that actor, but you remember a quiet moment with your child that broke your heart open. That's not mental decline. That's selective brilliance. Your brain is now filtering out what doesn't matter so you can tune into what does. Section 5. Practical ways to embrace your evolving mind. Understanding these changes is one thing, but applying them is where transformation happens. So here are some practical ways to work with your brain after 40, not against it. Strategy number 1. Reframe your self-talk. Language shapes belief. Stop calling them senior moments. Call them selective prioritization. When you write things down, you're not losing memory. You're creating space for deeper processing. When you pause before responding, you're not slow. You're wise. Personal example. I started shifting my language about a year ago. Instead of saying, ugh, my memory's going, I say, I'm externalizing so I can think more creatively. That one shift alone boosted my confidence and made me feel more in control of my mind. Strategy number 2. Leverage pattern recognition. Notice the patterns you see that others miss. In meetings, watch for unspoken dynamics. In relationships, look for emotional loops. In your habits, identify what serves you and what doesn't. Keep a pattern journal for a few weeks. You'll be amazed at what you intuitively know that others overlook. Strategy number 3. Trust your integrated thinking. When younger colleagues demand a yes-no answer, don't collapse into binary thinking. Let your complex, nuanced mind do what it does best. Consider multiple perspectives, weigh long-term consequences. Make decisions that hold truth from more than one angle. Your ability to think in layers is an advantage, not a liability. Strategy number 4. Optimize your attention. Don't fight your brain's new focus style. Embrace it. Create quiet spaces. Batch shallow tasks. Protect your deep work hours. I redesigned my workday around this. My mornings are for writing and deep thinking, no meetings. My afternoons are for emails and errands. My brain now flows with ease. The result? I'm getting more done in less time and feeling more fulfilled doing it. Strategy number 5. Cultivate your wisdom. Feed your mind with what it craves now. Depth, not noise. Read books that challenge your beliefs. Have long, unhurried conversations. Mentor someone. Be mentored. Explore spiritual, emotional, or philosophical ideas, not to be right, but to understand. You're no longer chasing information. You're integrating wisdom, creativity, relationships, and the final call to celebrate the mind we grow into. Section 6. The Creativity Renaissance. Let's bust one of the most damaging myths out there, that creativity belongs to the young. We're told the best songs are written in your 20s. The most groundbreaking art happens early. That if you haven't made it creatively by 30 or 35, it's too late. This couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, some kinds of creativity, like disruptive innovation or raw experimentation, might peak early. But what blooms later is a different, deeper kind of brilliance. Psychologists call it crystallized creativity, the ability to blend experience with imagination, emotion with insight. It's not just new ideas, it's meaningful ones. I picked up painting again in my 40s, something I hadn't done seriously in over a decade. I expected to struggle. I expected my work to feel rusty, uninspired, maybe even amateurish. But what happened was the opposite. My brushstrokes slowed, my colors softened, my composition started telling stories. I wasn't just painting what I saw, I was painting what I understood. The grief of lost time, the joy in small moments, the ache of beauty mixed with memory. My younger self painted from skill, my older self paints from the soul. I recently attended a weekend art retreat with creatives ranging from age 22 to 67. The younger artists? Their work was stunning, full of bold choices, fearless experimentation. I loved their energy. But the older artists? Their work carried weight. Their pieces were layered, not just in paint, but in story. One woman, 58, painted a simple kitchen table scene, but somehow, in the grain of the wood and the glow of the light, she captured decades of family meals, laughter, arguments, and quiet early morning solitude. It made me tear up. That's what midlife creativity gives us. It's not just the what we create. It's the why, the how, the who we are behind it. If you've been putting off your creative impulses, whether writing, photography, dance, woodworking, gardening, music, or anything else, because you think you're too old to start, I want you to hear this. You are not too old. You are finally old enough to have something real to say, old enough to not care about pleasing everyone, old enough to know that creation isn't about perfection, it's about expression. This is your time. Don't wait for permission, don't wait for skill, just start. Your creative renaissance doesn't begin with inspiration, it begins with intention. Section 7. The Relationship Revolution. Now let's talk about something even more profound than creativity, connection. Our relationships evolve dramatically after 40. Not because we suddenly become social butterflies, but because we gain tools we didn't have before. Emotional regulation, pattern recognition, wisdom, and patience. And those tools change everything. I used to get hooked into every disagreement. Every emotional flare-up felt urgent, personal, and dramatic. But in midlife, something softened. I started noticing patterns in myself and others. I became less reactive, more curious. Now, when conflict arises, I ask, is this really about what we're arguing about? What's the unmet need underneath this moment? Is this worth damaging connection over? Or is there something deeper going on? That single shift has healed more relationships than any communication hack I've ever tried. A few months ago, my teenage daughter and I had what started as a classic power struggle. Me nagging about her messy room, her rolling her eyes and getting defensive. But halfway through, something clicked. I paused, took a breath, and said, "You know what? I'm not really upset about the room. I'm worried. You seem overwhelmed lately. Can we talk about that?" She softened immediately, and we ended up having the most open, connected conversation we'd had in months. The room got cleaned eventually, but the relationship, that was the real win. Your 40-plus brain knows something your younger self didn't. Most conflicts aren't about what's said, they're about what's felt. People want to feel seen, respected, heard, safe. When you focus on those needs rather than just winning an argument, you become a wiser partner, parent, friend, and leader. You also learn not every battle is worth fighting. Not every emotion needs a response, and not every relationship deserves equal energy. You love more deeply, but also more wisely. The relationships you're building now, romantic, platonic, familial, professional, have the potential to be the most authentic of your life. Because you're no longer performing. You're no longer chasing approval. You're showing up honestly and inviting others to do the same. That's the revolution. Connection over control. Vulnerability over image. Understanding over being understood. And it's a revolution that starts in your own mind. Section 8. Embracing the gift. Let's bring it all together. By now, you've probably realized something. The mind after 40 isn't a declining machine. It's an evolving masterpiece. Yes, you may forget names. Yes, you might walk into a room and wonder why. But in exchange, you get pattern recognition, emotional wisdom, deep creativity, and the ability to make decisions that align with your deepest values. You're not losing your mind. You're gaining a mind your younger self couldn't even dream of. I used to worry every time I couldn't recall a word or missed a detail. But now, when I forget something trivial, I smile. I remind myself, my brain is prioritizing the important stuff. My mind is working for me, not against me. My power lies not in remembering everything, but in remembering what matters. So here's what I want you to do. Start noticing your cognitive superpowers. Track the moments when your pattern recognition kicks in. Celebrate when your wisdom prevents an emotional spiral. Pay attention to your integrated thinking. Watch your creativity deepen. Notice how you listen more, argue less, and love better. Your mind is showing up for you in ways that are quiet, but profound. And if this video has helped you see your mind in a new light, please share it. Leave a comment. Tell me which mental shift resonated most with you. What strength surprised you after 40? How has your thinking improved with age? Let's rewrite the narrative on aging, not with fear, but with awe. The story of your brain doesn't end at 40. It doesn't even plateau. It grows deeper, stronger, more soulful. You don't have a worn-out mind, you have a well-traveled one. And in that mind lives everything you need to make the second act of your life the best act. So stop apologizing. Stop comparing yourself to a younger version of you. That version was necessary but not final. This version, the one with wisdom, creativity, empathy, and depth, this is your power. This is your gift. This is your time. If this video spoke to you, please give it a thumbs up. It helps more people find this message. Share it with someone navigating midlife who could use a reminder of how powerful they truly are. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for grounded, honest reflections on mindset, aging, growth, and what it means to live a meaningful second act. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's a chapter, and maybe the most beautiful one yet. Until next time, take care of your evolving mind. It's serving you better than you know.